So today I'm going to talk about a kind of ego death that has personally it's been a difficult journey for me to be able to let this go, and I'm still in the process of letting it go because I've become aware of how enmeshed, entrenched the need for drama, excitement, turbulence, um, how entrenched that is, like almost in my DNA. And we could look to our childhoods and say, well, we had turbulent childhoods, and so because our brain waves are in theta and delta and alpha, and we don't have a conscious mind to block them out, then we become programmed. Or we could look at it like we came in with this specific addiction, which is what vibrationally matched us to our parents. It doesn't really matter. The point is that I want to talk about how to let go of this addiction. We all have addictions. Addiction is part of the human experience. You know, some people are actively engaging in the use of substances or food or cigarettes or sex or whatever. But some of us are still playing with the energies of codependency and narcissism um, and really avoiding the fear of aloneness and avoiding the feeling of being abandoned, and really above all else, the the main thing that we're avoiding is that we really don't trust life. Because if we really trusted life and we sourced our energy from God and not from other people, right? We don't need to be approved of, or we don't need to get some cheap form of instant gratification or energy from our environment or people. If we truly sourced our sense of safety and security and worth from our own source, we wouldn't be grabbing it in the world. We wouldn't be grabbing it. What does this have to do with adrenaline? Well, if we don't know who we are without a feeling of turbulence, then we will, in that energy will take its tentacles and reach out and take action. The definition of karma is action, but it's taking action from feelings of lack. So if I feel scared and turbulent and uneasy and alone and afraid and avoiding my feelings, avoiding aloneness, avoiding abandonment, and then I reach out maybe to an ex that I know very well is not good for me in my life, or that isn't compatible for me, or to a friend that may be dealing with addictions, and maybe I know they're in a chaotic state, and part of me wants to reach out to them and appease them or soothe them, right? That's still an addiction to turbulence, because what I'm actually doing by enabling an addiction in someone else is trying to control them so I can get energy from them. Safety. I'm trying to get energy from them, right? Well, why do we keep people around that are turbulent, right? Whether it's an addict that you've kept in your life, somebody who's still, we're all addicts, but somebody who's still actively engaged in substance abuse or alcohol abuse, whatever, and their pain is like severely maybe twisting reality and taking things out on people, and maybe you are that person. Maybe you're addicted to being the punching bag, the doormat. That's something I've done in my life, and of course it goes both ways. No, we're not like some victim. If we're the doormat and we take abuse, the person that takes abuse eventually usually reaches a point where they've had enough, and then they lash out. They lash out at the other person because they're addicted to this turbulent feeling. I need to be battered and battered, this battered housewife syndrome, right? The psyche of the women and the men who have lived throughout history and all the abuse that has happened, it's still part of us. So when we believe that we have to accept abuse, right, we're actually accepting turbulence, we're accepting adrenaline, we believe that we deserve to be punished because we have no worth, because we're basically worthless people that deserve nothing. So I'll invite someone into my life. I'll pick up the phone every day and be told what I'm doing wrong. Where does that come from? Where does that addiction to adrenaline come from? It comes from a feeling of shame and worthlessness and even guilt. Guilt, while every emotion has intelligence, right? If we reflect upon our actions and we feel guilty for telling a lie or for being out of integrity in any way, and that guilt that helps us to transform, then it's useful. But if guilt is descending upon you like a blanket of darkness every day and making you feel like your guts are in a blender, and that you have to like text someone and correct something and fix something right now, that's also not the light. Let's call it that. Some people in Kabbalah, they call it Satan, Satan. Call it whatever you want. It's not that force, that opponent type of force will either cause you to fix something immediately or to never correct something. It never wants you to be in the middle where you're taking care of yourself from a place of love and doing the right thing with other people. It will keep you in a dynamic of addiction. And right now I'm specifically talking about the addiction to adrenaline. So here's a test for you. If this resonates with you, if you think this has anything to do with what you might be stuck in, try something. Is there someone in your life that you know, if you really ask yourself sincerely, I am feeding on them. I'm getting energy from them, right? Maybe it's comfort from someone, but you know that right now you shouldn't be speaking to them because both of you need to be alone, maybe. But you can't help yourself. You need to reach out again. Try just not reaching out. Try cutting off contact so that you can actually be with the emotion that you've been avoiding that actually makes you commit karma, which is action from that emotion. So it's really, we're avoiding some basic things. When we take action from these places of shame and guilt and the need for drama, we're avoiding some key things. We're avoiding a feeling of emptiness. Because when we stop sourcing our energy from people and environment, we're going to feel this emptiness inside. Because if I'm not feeding on everyone in my environment, if I'm not stealing light, if I'm not trying to get something, whether it's a sense of security or fulfillment from a person, which is a false idol, the moment that I stop doing that, it's going to feel uncomfortable because it's such a rampant habit. The first thing that happens when you cut off your emotional addiction, when you cut off the behavior and you begin to sit with the emotion, is that you feel uncomfortable. And that discomfort is the reason why people never get out of addictions. But if you knew that that discomfort and that pain and that void was actually a step in the right direction, if you could fully feel it and maybe in that moment say, you are my source. Talk to whatever you want to call it, the source of life. You are my source. This person is not my source. This person is not my source. Nobody is my source. That's a false idol. So when you feel uncomfortable, when you're starting to cut off your habits and your addictions and your, like as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, breaking the habit of being yourself, you will feel uncomfortable. You will feel a void. And if you can be in that energy and not try to fill it with a person or a distraction or a drug, if you can just be with that feeling, nature abhors a vacuum. What will fill the void is source. And you can literally use a visualization. You could use a visualization. Adrenaline is not my source. Drama is not my source. Life force is my source. So tell yourself, okay, I want to be aware of when I'm looking, of when the parts of me that I'm avoiding, the parts of me that need food, are looking to connect with something in the physical world to feed off of, to give me a sense of drama, turbulence, adrenaline, aliveness. Just tell yourself, I want to be aware of that first. Okay, you'll be aware of it. You'll be aware of it all day long. And then the next step is to be like, okay, can I take the next step and maybe not act from that energy? Maybe not act from that energy. And sometimes acting from that energy, again, it looks like, sometimes it looks innocent. Like, no, I just want to reach out to this person and like clear the air about something. No. I would be wary about trying to fix things too quickly, because it tells me that we're still avoiding something. When you stop avoiding the feelings, very often you will either not feel the need to confront, or you will have the ability to truly break contact with someone. Because if you really have the ability to break contact with someone who really isn't in a place to be having a relationship with you right now, then that means you acknowledge that you don't need to feed on them. They're not your source. I let you go. I release you. It's like the idea of when you have somebody who works for you in your business that doesn't want to be there. I know someone that I care about deeply in my life is experiencing this. They have an employee that is draining energy from the business. Letting them go is good for their soul, because then they can find something they truly want. Letting them go is good for your business, because you want people working around you that care about you and what you're doing, right? This is how we move from love of self and others. Sometimes it means breaking a bond. And why don't we break the bond? Because of fears. Oh, I'll never find someone that will want to work for me. I'll never find someone that I'll never be able to replace them in time. That's essentially the core fear. I don't trust life. I don't trust life. If I let go of a toxic relationship, I'll never have a better one. Now, of course, we always have to examine how we're being toxic. And one of the ways that we're toxic is we can't break the addiction to drama. So we either continue to enable bad behavior, and when we enable bad behavior, we then lash out because we act like animals. But the truth is that we're not animals, and we don't have to put up with things, but we're afraid to break contact because we're afraid to feel alone, and we're afraid to feel abandoned, and we're afraid to feel nothingness and death and aloneness. But those are the gateways to everything that you truly want, because it helps you move through the eye of the needle, where you realize, oh, none of those things are my source. Source is my source. So if you can feel the discomfort, the void, the emptiness, the nothingness, the fear, but try not to move from that place. Try not to scratch the itch. Really, this is the hardest thing in life. Stop scratching the itch. Stop scratching the itch. There's a beautiful line in A Course in Miracles. One of the daily lessons is, I could choose peace instead of this. So when you feel your stuff wanting to reach out its tentacles and create drama, say to yourself, maybe that's a good one. I could choose peace instead of this. You just popped a layer of your negativity. And I have compassion for this. I have a pretty intense, it's like my whole life has been so defined by adrenaline that actually truly letting it go, and I'm getting emotional about this, truly letting it go is really a death for me. But I wanted to share it because it's so important. It's so important that we find a way out of this dynamic, because first of all, if we don't find a way out, we're not evolving. And if we don't evolve, we'll just create a reason to leave the world, a sickness, whatever. If we don't learn what we need to learn, like, the body breaks down, everything starts breaking down. And I personally don't want to live that way anymore. I want to learn what I need to learn. And I'm sharing this because sometimes something is so normal for you that you can't see beyond it. You can't see it because it's you. And I've realized for a while now that that's not me, but it's so thick that it pulls me back in. So I've come to like this apex, this culmination point where I'm like, all right, it's go time. It's time to get off the bench and actually put this into action and say, I'm not willing to engage with things. And when I cut off contact to something that has been feeding me cheap energy, I'm going to choose to love myself and feel the source instead. Period. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you have a beautiful day.